Hi, team. I'm recording this session as of February 3rd, 2025, just to touch down on how to do the borrower disclosures. The rules around the borrower disclosures keeps on changing. However, I'm doing it today just to give you an idea about what to mention in a borrower disclosure because this is the most important document that is required in compliance. First thing first, whenever the commitment comes in to you, open up the commitment and ensure that the dollar-to-dollar amounts mentioned on the commitment are exactly what you have requested. So suppose that if you have requested 400,000 of mortgage and they have given you, say, 400,000 and a 50 cent, then you have to change it to 50 cent because your values would change if you do not change this amount in accordance with whatever there is on the commitment. So dollar to dollar, the first mortgage that was requested has to be same as that on the commitment amount. Having said that, we now would go on to the mortgage request session and make sure that the interest rate mentioned is exactly what we have requested and there is on the commitment. The payment frequency, the compounding period, amortization term, and everything over here showing up is as showing up on the commitment. How would you know that you've not done any mistake is when you would see the monthly payment showing up on your commitment to be exactly the same as showing up here. In this case, we are assuming that it's a private mortgage. So the compounding period on most of the private mortgages is monthly. So I have selected monthly here. For most of the B lenders, it's semi-annual. So if the value is coming off, you might toggle between these and see what the options are on the commitment so that you can match the payment showing up on the commitment to the payment showing up in the system. The rate needs to be exactly same, amortization term, everything needs to be same, fixed, close, whatever there is. Once you get the payment exactly equal to what there is on the commitment, you're good to proceed and generate your borrower disclosure. In order for you to generate the borrower disclosure, you would just come down into the conditions and documents. I have already done a different video on how to generate all the forms that are required to do the compliance. Assuming that you have already watched that, now this tab over here would be already generated on your system for the borrower disclosure. You would expand this. Here, you would select the product that you have requested for and press refresh. So it would just pull up all the details that are showing up on the mortgage request. And you just have to ensure that this payment is and the rate and the frequency and everything is showing up as same as on the commitment. If the closing date is different, you can always go back and change it to whatever the closing date is on mentioned on the commitment from here. So it would already change it over here as well. If not, always press refresh. Then the first payment usually it picks up automatically. There are some very standard verbiages that we use for all of these things over here, mentioned here. I have a write-up for most of them, but I would also read through these just so you know what to write. So if it's a fixed rate, you would be writing this. However, if there is a variable rate that you have requested for, your mortgage commitment would be showing up how the interest rates would change if the prime changes. So that is where you have to copy that from in the commitment and put it over here, that if let's suppose that the prime goes up, your interest rate would be moving in this direction, that direction, and by this much amount. And at the end, always write C commitment for details, just so if anything is missed, this part can cover up for that. There is no grace period in most of the mortgages and interest begins to accrue immediately. Again, see commitment for details. The payments are usually done on first of the month unless mentioned on the commitment. For a different date, then pick up that date. Number of advances is 1 in this case because everything is being advanced right away. Now here comes the most important part in the borrower disclosure that must be taken care of in every case. The appraisal, if the appraisal is being done, most of the cases an appraisal is always done. It is included in APR. To be precise, any fee that the client needs to be aware of would be occurring during the term of the mortgage or in the whole transaction he needs to know about. You have to mention them here. In any fees that they already might know that they have to pay, you do not have to include in the APR, but you still might have to mention. For example, an appraisal, we take an approximate amount of 600 and we mentioned approximate you pay. It's included in the APR, but the client usually pays it out of the pocket. So we did not select deduct from advance. Then comes the legal fees. These legal fees are what they pay to their own lawyer. So you would say approximate you pay to your lawyer. Approximate amount is $1,200. Because the client is already aware of it and neither is it deducted from advance, you are leaving these two blank. For most of the private mortgages, the legal fees that the lender would want you to pay for the lawyer is what you have to incur again, and you might not be aware of that. So approximate you pay to the lender lawyer is what you would mention here. An approximate amount of 2,500 goes here. It's definitely included in the APR, but most of the lenders would also be deducting it from the advance because you're paying it for their lawyers. So you have to specifically see what is it mentioned in the commitment to be able to select this one. But yes, they are included in APR always. Then other fees, for example, you would in this one say approximate you pay for lender title insurance is an approximate amount that we mentioned for $400. It's included in the APR, and most of the times they will be deducting it from the advance. Again, see the commitment for this one specifically. The lender fees that you have to pay would be deducted from the advance, 5,000 in this case. They're included in APR and they are deducted from the advance. Broker fees, most of the times again, are deducted from the advance. And here you go for the amount. It's not an approx for both of these because you already know the amounts. And usually they're deducted from the advance. So they go in the APR, they're also deducted from the advance. If there are any other fees associated, for example, an appraisal, walkthrough appraisal fee or an admin fee, usually they will also be deducted from the advance and they're always included in the APR. So you have to be careful about reading through the commitment to see what is being deducted from the advance to give an idea to the client, okay, this is what you will be getting in hand. So if there is a shortfall, you should be aware of that first. Otherwise, the client might be able to come back to you and say that I was not aware that these many deductions would be coming out of the mortgage amount. Having said that, now you would move on to the terms and conditions portion. The general terms and conditions have a standard write-up that we have. I can send that over to you. The transferability depends on mortgage to mortgage. Some of them are transferable while others are not. So you have to see what there is in the commitment to be sure that if it is transferable or not. Always don't forget to write C commitment for detail at the end of all of these, but pick up from the commitment if it is transferable or not and whatever the words are exactly on the commitment. In the special conditions would go that this is subject to satisfactory income ID verification, appraisal, mortgage statement of property taxes, all taxes paid out, and interview with the borrower. Alongside, some might require tenant acknowledgement and assignment of rents. So you would mention all the special conditions that might be required. Additional comments. In this case, we're assuming that it's a private mortgage. So you will write these things up in it that due to the nature and ownership of your income and other conditions that apply, we're unable to get your mortgage approved through any of the A and B lenders, and we've secured it through a MIC or private lender at a higher rate, plus lender and broker fees. This additional thing I have written over here is when and in case you are enrolling some of your fees in the lender fees. And on top of it, you're also charging the broker fees. So the above portion over here, lender and broker fees, would cover up for anything that you are charging on the letter of direction. And broker paid by the lender is covered up for any fees that you have enrolled in the lender fees. If you are not enrolling anything in the lender fees, you might not even have to add broker paid by the lender. Prepayment privileges are very specific to the mortgage. So in this case, I'm assuming it's a fully open one. Whatever the prepayment privileges are clearly mentioned on the commitment. You just have to copy paste them from there and then put up C commitment and disclosure and additional terms and conditions for detail. Similar would go in particulars and penalties for any penalties that are involved in this particular mortgage. The method of payment is usually very standard and you'll just copy paste these wordings for it. Now, there is no conflict of interest in this case. However, if in any case the client is, by any chance related to you or has any relation with you, is if they're your relative or you're doing some other business with them, then you have to mention it over here. So for those wordings, we can always come up whenever you have a situation. For example, if let's suppose that we're doing an application for another mortgage agent. So you won't say not applicable. You would just say that the client is a fellow mortgage agent or working in the same company, something like that. So anything that needs to be disclosed as a relationship between you and the client and has a significance of value to the lender that you have to let them know about it. These are already preset at mortgage commissions and other compensations. Now, here is, I have already posted in the group how you can change this for once and for all. You would always select the lender and the borrower giving preference to neither. And 72 is the number of lenders that DLC dealt with last year. Then we have very, standard wordings for this and additional risks that I can also send those over to you. This is pretty much it. Now, once you've done all of this, you would create the borrower disclosure and then you would send it out for signing. So here is how you create it. And then you would view the document, save it, and send it for signing. So you cannot just go wrong on the borrower disclosure in any case. But again, as I mentioned, these all wordings have to be picked up word to word from the commitment. These are the ones that I have standard over here for most of the mortgages, but prepayment privileges can be very different between lenders. Some of them would allow 15% prepaid payment. Some of them will give you a prepayment penalty of say 3 months of interest. Others would give you a penalty of interest rate differential. So all of these words have to be in accordance with whatever there is on the commitment. Similar for transferability. Some are transferable, some are not. Special conditions more or less stay the same. Method of payments more or less stay the same. Additional comments can be more or less, if it's a B lender, it would be a bit different, you would say, because you cannot secure it through an A lender. We've secured it from a B lender. So you have to pay a higher rate with the lender and the broker fees. So those are general conditions more or less would remain the same. So this being said, this is how we do the borrower disclosure. Once you have a deal which is live, just do it to the best of your knowledge, and then we can always discuss it.